Hey Facebook, it's Lindsay. I have a few minutes while I wait to pick up my daughter on the first day of school, which is super exciting for her. Starting third grade is always fun, and my other daughter cannot wait to get started on Monday either. So, want to touch base with you with this first day of school week in North Central West Virginia. I lost track of time, and here it is already Thursday. So, I am sorry I didn't give you a good to knows with Touchdown Home Pros yesterday, but I don't want you to think that I forgot about you. Wanted to let you know that I have been thinking a lot about what we can talk about today while I wait for my daughter. So, one thing that we get asked a lot is about pre-approvals and why as a buyer you should have a pre-approval, or why as a seller you should have a pre-approval from a buyer making an offer on your property. So, a realtor is going to tell you, you need to have a pre-approval before we get started on our property search. Why is that? Nothing is worse, and I promise you I mean that. Absolutely nothing is worse than you looking at houses with your realtor, looking online, looking at your client collaboration center, figuring out what it is you want to see, and falling in love with a property just to find out after you've contracted on the property and your offer has been accepted that lo and behold, you can't afford it. It is so hard to go back the other direction. Trust me, you don't want to be in that situation. So talking to a lender up front is always in your best interest. It allows you to know what your pre-approval limits are, the amount of money a lender is going to agree to lend to you, and also what your debt to income ratios are and what your credit scores are. Your realtor is not a lender. They can get you in touch with a lender or multiple lenders, and that is something that you can shop. You want to look at apples to apples, and with new federal guidelines, all lenders have to give you information the same way so you know what kind of loan program you are getting. So, when your realtor asks you to get a pre-approval, don't think that they just don't want to work with you, because that's absolutely not the truth. What they are trying to do is make sure that you are comfortable and that we are looking at the right property for what is good for you. If your lender tells you you can afford $250, but you really don't want to spend more than $220, then spend $220. You do not have to buy a house on the maximum amount of what your lender says you can afford either. So keep that in mind. Your realtor is going to be able to give you some sort of an idea of what you can afford based on, if you say, I'm comfortable with $900 a month rent, I would be comfortable with a $900 mortgage. Your agent can tell you about what that house price would be working backwards. However, they usually are not going to take into consideration principal mortgage insurance if you don't have 20% down. They are not going to take in consideration your debt to income ratio. They're not going to take into consideration insurance or property taxes on that deal. So when they tell you if you can afford $900 a month, you should be looking in this range. They're not looking at an additional $100 a month for property taxes, an additional $100 for homeowners insurance, and an additional $100 for HOA fees. So you want to make sure that you've talked to that lender and you have all of your ducks in a row so you aren't disappointed. From a seller's perspective, you want to make sure your buyer has a pre-qualification letter or a pre-approval letter right up front. Yes, the contract has a contingency in it for a pre-approval letter, and unfortunately, lending can definitely be one of the pieces of the puzzle that falls apart right at the very end of the transaction. But if they've already gone that one step and their offer is accompanied with a pre-approval or pre-qualification letter, then they have already been serious enough to speak to a lender about purchasing your home. One last thing. Any lender is going to tell you, and we are going to echo this as well. And I know Connie's watching, so she's going to give all kinds of hearts. And I know all of my agents would tell you this as well. When you are buying a house, you have a pre-approval letter. You're going to be excited. You're going to want to call your mover. You're going to want to put your down payment down on the mover. You're going to want to buy furniture. Don't do it. This is not the time to make big money decisions. You're making a big money decision by buying a house. So if your car breaks down and you need to buy a new car, call your lender first and see if you have the ability to do so. Please do not buy a truck 2 weeks before closing on your house. It is also not the time to change jobs. You need to make sure that you are still employed with the person who gives you your paycheck when you close on the house. If you need not buy, once you close, if you need to buy a new truck, buy a new truck. If you want to buy a whole new or finance a whole new furniture suite for your bedrooms and your living rooms and your dining room, that's fine. The day of closing, after you buy your house, go to the furniture store and do so. Not in the 60-day window between contract and closing. So I know this week's Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros was a little shorter than usual, which is probably a breath of fresh air for some people, if I'm being honest. But this is one question that we are asked so often about pre-approval letters and why as a buyer you need one, and why as a seller it looks better when an offer is accompanied with one. Please remember to comment below and let us know any questions that you may have that you want me or any of my team members to address on the Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros. Also, make sure to like us just below and follow us so when we go live, you are notified. And remember that we will put all of these videos on our YouTube channel as well, so you can find them at any given time. So, we hope you have enjoyed this Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros. Great seeing you guys again this week. And I believe, we have not put this on Facebook yet, but I believe Stacy is going to go live at a few of our townhouses at Birdseye sometime in possibly this evening or possibly tomorrow evening, or maybe both. So keep an eye open for Stacy and cheer her on as she does her first live Facebook videos as well. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope you learned something from the Good to Knows with Touchdown Home Pros. Bye.